everybody. I'm really glad you could all make it. We're going to be meeting here every Wednesday during fourth period. That's what everybody seemed to have free from what I gathered. My name is Morgan, as you all know. I'm the school counselor here. I think I've met all of you before. You've at least seen me around or seen me at assemblies or whatever. We're just going to start. Today's going to be a really easy day. I want to go ahead and ease some nerves there. We're just gonna kind of open up a little bit and kind of get to know each other, get to know a little bit more about what this group is gonna be about, and figure out what the rest of the semester will look like. So we're gonna go ahead and go around this way. If you wanna go ahead and say your name.
I'm Emma.
I'm Bethany.
I'm Jemima.
All right, it's nice to meet all of you. We are all here because we struggle with social anxiety. And so that's a really, really common thing in high school. But it's not something everybody gets the opportunity to handle or learn to cope with. And we're gonna learn how to do that in this group, which involves learning more about what it is and more about how it affects us. But we'll get into that more later. We're gonna do just like a quick icebreaker. We're gonna go around the room and say, if you could pick any superpower in the world, what would you pick? We're gonna start again with Emma.
I'd want to fly. Teleportation. Page right. Anyway.
I think I would choose flying too, but she said it, so it sounds late now.
It's okay, you can do the same thing. Yeah, some of them are just too good to not. Yeah, I would have trouble choosing one, but teleportation has always been one of my top ones too. And then maybe being able to like morph, to like turn into other things. I feel like that would be really fun.
Like the X-Men girl?
Yes.
Rogue. I was actually thinking the same thing. Wait, is that Rogue?
No,
it's Mystique.
Yes, exactly. That's a good reference for a lot of superpowers. Yeah, so you guys know who I am, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what my role is in this setting. You guys know that around the school I deal with a lot of different things, but in this group specifically, I am going to be the facilitator, which really doesn't necessarily mean I'm running the group. It means I kind of keep it going. There's going to be a lot of discussions. There's going to be mostly you guys talking. Probably not today, but in future sessions. You guys will have the majority of the conversation, and I'm going to help guide that conversation so that it's going to be as supportive and helpful for you as possible. This isn't really a place where we get together and we just gripe about social anxiety, although expressing that is going to be a part of it. But we're also going to be using different things that will help us cope with it, like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a term we use a lot when we're talking about therapy and psychology. And we're going to actually practice that a little bit this week. I'll tell you more about that at the end. But that's a term for a specific kind of therapy that kind of targets your thoughts and what thoughts cause which emotions. And our emotions, we usually have a reaction to that. So if we have a thought like, oh no, that person doesn't like me, then we might get anxious. And then our behavior might be to avoid that person. And then we feel lonely. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions? Okay. And we'll incorporate that more as we go. Again, today is a little bit more of just a starter day and getting to know each other. My role will also be to cut you guys off sometimes. I know that sounds weird today because everybody's a little anxious, a little shy, but we're gonna get to know each other really well, which means that some people might talk more than others. So my job might be to help you taper your conversations a little bit and draw someone else out so that everybody's getting the most that they can out of this group. And it'll involve a little bit more of getting to know each person's strengths and weaknesses and drawing those out. Some group rules will be no phones, just because that tends to make people uncomfortable because you can take pictures or record it, which goes into our second rule, which is that this is completely confidential. Anything that's said in this room, it stays right here. We don't go outside and tell our friends about it. We're not gonna post it on social media, and it's a lot of private stuff, and I think you guys know that and you can respect that. For me as a therapist, I have to follow that. That's the law. I'm not allowed to tell anybody what you tell me here. The only exceptions are if there's reason to believe that you would harm yourself or someone else, or that if an elder or disabled person or a child is in danger, I have to report that. Does that make sense to all of you?
Yep.
Alright. I'm gonna have you guys pair up. Emma, you're gonna be with me. And we're gonna come up with some more rules for this group. I want it to be, I've set some guidelines, but this is gonna be y'all's group. This is gonna be something you guys benefit from and you guys learn from. So I want you to think about some guidelines and expectations that you wanna have of each other. That would be helpful. So you guys can go ahead and talk to each other and maybe come up with one or two. And then I know we can talk to.
What do you
I
think?
know you're stuck with sheet duty. But
What's
something that you
we
feel
are gonna
would
have
be
to
really
plan.
important for the group?
Me either.
Just like respectful of people.
I mean, I feel like maybe a rule where like
What's that look
if
like for you?
somebody's kind of like she said, cutting us off, like if
not
somebody's
laughing
been
at other
ranting
people
for a long time,
or
it's not their turn to talk anymore, so somebody else can have a turn.
Not making eye contact.
Yeah, more like just kind of
That's great. That's a really good
letting
one.
everyone have their turn to talk and everyone else saying something.
All right. We all stopped at the same time. Okay. We're gonna go around this way this time. Give Emma a break from
Yeah.
starting. Jemima, what did you guys come up with? Or what's one that you came up with?
I was kind of just thinking, like, going off of what you said about cutting maybe us off sometimes, like to keep it fair and to keep like everyone involved the same amount in this group and accountable and stuff. Like if somebody's ranting too much, like they have a time limit or something like that, so that everyone can have a chance.
That's a good one. What do you think that would look like? Explain it a little bit more to me. I really like that idea. I want to hear more about it.
Well, I think like an actual time limit maybe would just make people nervous or not want to talk as much. But if there's like a repeated pattern of somebody's hogging all the time or something like that, then we can like let them know that they should stop and then like hold them accountable if they keep doing it to not do it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think that'll come up maybe more as like we get to know each other. You think? Maybe we can find ways of doing that. Maybe just like raising our hand, like, hey, you've been talking for a while, or something like that. I think that's a great idea. Bethany, do you have anything to add to what you guys discussed?
I think that was more just it, where we just make sure everyone is getting their turn to speak and have their say. I feel like that's the most beneficial way for everyone to get something out of the group rather than just if one person monopolizes everything.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that you guys kind of noted that right now kind of shows me that that's probably not going to happen as much in this group as in others. I feel like you guys are pretty attentive to that. And I do feel like you guys are going to be really great at respecting each other and respecting your time. I'm going to let Emma talk for us.
I talked just about like being respectful to other people and like not laughing at what they have to say or not like judging them for saying different things. And she had said like make eye contact too.
Yeah, so just kind of goes with what you guys are saying, just making sure we're paying attention and respecting each other's time. Making sure that we're looking at each other when someone's talking. I know that it's easy to kind of, especially at this time in the day, kind of like doze off or get a little daydreamy. But we want to be here and get the most out of this time. So this one, I'm not going to have you guys go around. I'm going to have you guys just kind of speak up when you feel ready. which might cause some awkward silence, which is fine. We're okay with that. But I want you guys to think of at least one expectation you have for this group. Not a rule.
For ourselves or for each other or what?
For yourselves, or something that you expect something you expect to gain in this group or learn, or what you kind of expect this group to look like.
I don't have any expectations. I'm only here because my parents are making me, so.
That's fair. I get that.
I think that I want to like start being more honest with my feelings or just like, I don't know, sometimes I try and like journal about my feelings or like stuff like that, and I feel like that's nice, but I also need to like talk about them.
Mhm.
But that's scary, so I want to get better.
That is scary. Yeah. And I think all of us would say that that's pretty scary. That's pretty common. Emotions in general are really hard to talk about and they're pretty scary. And it's a really good skill to learn how to do that at this age. And that's definitely something we're going to be doing in this group. This group will challenge us and make us grow. So that is something you can expect from this group. And something you can expect for yourself. I think that's great on both levels. Bethany, how about you?
I think just mainly is just kind of how like learning maybe a little bit on like how to engage with other people a little bit better, which is definitely a struggle I know for a lot of people, but it's difficult to just kind of specifically like now, like it's just kind of hard to be able to like engage someone in conversation or like ask someone to do something, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, that is definitely something that I think you're going to get more confident in this group. This is a therapy group, not an educational group, so I'm not going to be like teaching you social skills. We're going to be learning more about how to handle the anxiety that comes with that. So kind of supporting, I think, a lot of the skills that you already have and helping you go through that. So that's a great expectation, and I think we can really handle that in this group. Emma, if you had to say one thing, just anything that you expect from this group, what would you say?
For it to help me get along better with other people.
That's good. Thank you. I know that you didn't have any expectations, so I hate to put you on the spot, but thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's a great goal. I have that goal all the time, and I need to keep working on it. So the focus today, we're just gonna kind of we did introductions, and we're kind of digging into the purpose of the group a little bit. It's a shorter agenda, yeah.
Is this group, just a question, is this group just about like anxiety specifically, or is it like all of our problems, or is it like anything we bring up, or just we have to talk about anxiety?
That's a really good question. So it's a group for anxiety, but I think that you guys will all kind of know, or at least learn to recognize, anxiety affects pretty much all areas of life. And it's not something that you really leave at school or leave at home, or something that comes up with, it's just something that's always there with you. And it's not something that you can really set aside always. So it is about anxiety, but that means we're gonna be talking about a lot of different things, because anxiety affects a lot of the way we live our daily lives. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that being said, I want you to feel free to talk about anything in here. But yeah, it's anxiety focused, I guess. But I don't want you to feel like you have to just talk about how you're anxious, because anxiety does affect a lot of different areas.
Okay.
That's a really great question. I'm glad you asked that, Jemima. So today's agenda will kind of, we've done a lot of it actually, is kind of introducing each other, getting to know each other. We did an icebreaker, just kind of understanding a little bit more about what this group will look like, going over expectations. We're gonna do a couple exercises that are really just like what we already did, just kind of going around. They're really gonna be exercises to learn to express ourselves and learn to speak up with each other, which will get us a little bit more comfortable. And as we go on, each session will have exercises and prompts to kind of get us engaged. Yes, Jemima?
I have another unrelated question.
Okay.
Is it just us in the group, or are more people going to come later?
That's
or
a great
is it
question.
anyone can come?
This is a closed group, so it's just us.
Okay.
So after this, no one else is joining. Not that we're keeping them out, but this is a 1 semester group. It's just us, so we can get to know each other and really build off of that.
Okay.
If people are coming and going, I think that would make it a little more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just gonna be a closed group, which will help contribute to it being closed information with everything staying here. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. And you guys can always feel free to interrupt me. Just like I said, this isn't my group, it's a group, so. Yeah, so one thing that I want us to go ahead and do is we're gonna go around the circle this way again, starting with Jemima, and I want you to say one thing that helps you with your anxiety. Or maybe something that you do when you're anxious.
Yeah. I think sometimes when I'm anxious, like, I'll try to, like, distract myself, but, like, watch a movie or, like, you know, go talk to my family or something. I don't know. Probably not my whole family. But I think, like, what I'm trying to do more is, like, journaling, like I had said, like, talk about, like, write in my journal, like, what is freaking me out or stressing me out, and talk, like, think about, like, when did it start or something like that, or just, like figure out, or, like, journal about, like, why I'm stressed or something, and sometimes then it is helpful.
Yeah, so journaling, talking to someone comfortable, learning to distract yourself. Those are all called, like, coping mechanisms. Those are good ways to manage your anxiety and good skills to have, especially as we learn to dig into it more. I'm noticing you're staring at your shoes a lot. You feeling okay?
Yeah.
Okay. If you ever feel like you just are not open to talking, you can always let me know. I'm never gonna force you to talk. I might challenge you to speak up a little bit, like I did with Emma, but I'm not gonna make you do anything you don't want to do. Just saying, you're fine to stare at your shoes if you want. Bethany, how about you? What's something that tends to help you when you're anxious?
There's a couple things that definitely, like, just help me, like, think more clearly and just kind of, like, get perspective on different situations. One is definitely, like, some sort of exercise, so, like, I'll, like, go for a run or do, like, a dance workout video. I just feel like that helps me, like, get some steam off and just kind of, like, that sort of thing. Another thing is, like, taking a shower and, like, listening to music while you do it. I don't know, it's, like, very calming with the steam and just, like, shampooing your hair.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Personal sauna.
Your own personal sauna. Just make the water as hot as possible. And then just, like, sing really loudly your music. And
I love
sometimes
that.
people judge you, but you know what? It's really okay.
I haven't heard the shower one before. That's a good one. Finding things that are self-soothing, helping you de-stress. A lot of coping skills tend to be specific to you, and it's a matter of finding out what works for you. And that's a really good one to have, and a really good thing to know about yourself. Exercise is actually something that's way everywhere in the research on anxiety and mental health and psychological well-being. Exercise always promotes those things, and it's really, really good for your brain, and it stimulates a lot of growth. And so that's always a great one. I don't love to run, but if you guys like exercise, that is a great way. So, yeah. How about you, Emma?
I don't know, I usually just, like, vent on, like, Instagram or Tumblr, Because there's a lot of people on those websites that like understand what I'm going through. So.
Yeah. Do you usually just like post a general post, or do you like talk to specific people?
No, just like a general post.
How do you feel like that's helpful?
It's kind of like an online journal, and because like the usernames aren't like specific to me, it's like anonymous too.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of easier to like just like blog about that when nobody like knows it's me, and then like other people comment and like they're going through the same stuff, so like it like helps me know I'm not alone.
Yeah, that's a really great point, and that's actually kind of touches on something called universality, which is a big word that means that a lot of people feel the same thing. This isn't the fact that we're all in this group right now shows that it's not something that just one person experiences. It is really common, and it's important to recognize that you're part of a group of a lot of people that feel this way. You're not crazy, you're not strange. It's just something to work through and something to learn more about. So yeah, that's a great way to connect with other people, which is something that's great about social media. Except beware of strangers on there and stuff, all that that you hear all the time because you're high school students. So I'm not gonna lecture about it. Yeah, but those are all really great ones. I'm gonna ask a little bit more of a challenging question. What do you think is gonna be one of the harder things for you in this group? And I'm gonna have you guys just popcorn, not go in a circle, just speak up when you're ready. And we're okay with awkward silence, so that's fine.
I think like staying awake and staying focused, because it's late in the day and I don't really want to be here.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But I'll try.
I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. I wouldn't blame you if you just zoned out. I would probably try to pull you in, but yeah, that's a good one. It is late in the day. There's a lot going on in your lives. I know that. I know this is not your primary focus. I'm gonna try to make sure that I never overwhelm you guys. We're gonna have like little tasks that you practice throughout the week, but never a homework assignment. I'm not gonna give you like a book to read. But yeah, staying awake and staying focused. That is gonna be hard, and that's a good thing to kind of be aware of. Thanks, Emma.
I think for me, like a lot of the time with my anxiety, I like do like personal things, like I journal about it, and just like things that like still like keep it to myself when I process it, and so I think it's gonna be hard for me to like get better at like sharing it with people and like knowing how to talk about it, or like how to words, because I feel like I can write about it and it is more natural, but having like words to describe it to other people is like harder for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. That definitely makes sense. It kind of goes off of what we were talking about before about emotions being something that's already difficult to talk about, and they're personal, so it's hard to kind of put words to that. So I definitely respect that, and that's something that a lot of people feel too, and definitely something that we're gonna get used to, because I will ask lots of questions and we will have lots of conversations. Bethany, how about you? What's something that'll be difficult?
I think the one I was thinking of was very similar to Jemima's, in that just like a lot of the times I don't voice my concerns or voice what I'm feeling. I pretty much just like think about it, or just like try to forget it overall. But having to speak about it is a little more challenging, so I was just thinking about like voicing what I'm feeling, because it's very difficult sometimes.
Yeah, it's difficult to like know like how to say it in a way that actually, like I feel like sometimes when I try and say something, people get a different idea and not what I'm trying to say, and it's not helpful because then they don't help me work through it or anything because they're just like going off on this other tangent, and I'm like, that doesn't help me. So
Jemima, I'm gonna challenge you to whenever that happens in this group,
okay,
would you feel comfortable correcting us?
like how? Like,
If we misinterpret what you say, or you express yourself and you feel like we didn't quite get it, would you be willing to try again and help us understand better?
I'll try.
It's something we can practice as we go.
Okay.
I'm not gonna make you be like, actually, every time you say anything.
Okay.
Or maybe just something to keep in mind. Or that might be a good exercise for you down the road.
I might like need to do it later because sometimes it takes me a minute to like try and figure out again a different way to say it.
Yeah, definitely.
But okay.
Which goes along with learning to express ourselves and learning to put it into words when we haven't really had to do that before and we don't really know how to do that now. But we're gonna learn how. Going off of what you guys said, why do you think it's important to voice some of these concerns or some learning to put words to how you feel? How do you feel like that's important?
I feel like a lot of times when you don't voice it, it can get very like muddled and like you don't really know what's going on or knowing how you feel, as opposed to like when you, and also like sometimes it's easier to process things if you voice them or like if you're hearing yourself speak them back, and that doesn't like mean you have to like record yourself or like, you know, like go somewhere that's echoey, but it can mean just like actually speaking them out, because a lot of the times when you're just like saying things to yourself on the inside, you like don't necessarily, you can get confused and you can just hear the same things over and over and over, as opposed to like voicing them sometimes will bring a lot of like clarity. Sometimes.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Jemima? You don't have to if you don't want to.
I mean, kind of just what she was saying, like sometimes I feel like if I keep it to myself, it will just like start going in a loop of the same like things that are stressing me out, and they just like go in a circle in my brain and they never go anywhere, and it's like makes it worse because they're just like hyping each other up, and like if I like talk about it, maybe it will help that not happen.
Those are really good ones.
And I definitely think also like if you talk with someone else, they might be able to like bring a different perspective to it. Like not necessarily like be like, well, you shouldn't feel this way because this, but like at least like bring some sort of like clarification to the situation based off of just like it's not rattling around in your own brain, it's coming from an outside source, and so you might get some sort of like different opinion or different just kind of perspective on what you're going through, which would be good sometimes.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point of group therapy. You guys could all do individual therapy with me or with anybody, licensed anybody who's qualified, probably. But yeah, there's something about a group where we can, if you've got some peers, you're the same age, you're in the same school, you guys have a lot in common, you're experiencing a lot of the same things, so this is a great place to process that. And I think maybe you've heard a few things that you kind of resonate with each other. You guys have been bouncing off of what each other say a lot today. And I'm hearing just a lot of similar themes in what's going on, which is super common. And this is a really great place to get that and grow from that. So we are gonna go ahead and close up this session. Kind of on that note, on a happy note. I'm gonna try to always end on a positive note because a lot of it will get heavy and a lot of it is hard. I told you we're gonna come back to CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a long term that is hard, doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's the idea that our thoughts affect our emotions, which then affect how we behave. So it was I gave the example of maybe thinking someone doesn't like you, so you avoid them and then you feel lonely, or you feel like unimportant, or you just feel bad about yourself. So we're gonna do an automatic thought log. So automatic thoughts are the first thought you have that it then affects the feeling. And whenever you have a time where you're feeling anxious, I want you to think, what was I thinking when I felt anxious? What caused that anxiety just now? And I want you to write it down. And you're just gonna do it 3 times this week. I'm not gonna have you do it every day. I'm not gonna have you do it every time you're anxious. Like I said, I don't wanna give you guys as much homework as your history teacher, for example. So, just 3 times, you're gonna write down what you're thinking, what you felt, and what your response was. Just those 3 things. Yes, Jemima.
So can we like do it all in one day?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just gonna be one way to practice identifying some ways that you feel, some areas that you feel anxious, and what thoughts are happening, what's going on in our heads.
Are you talking about the thoughts that led up to the feeling of anxiety, or the thoughts that happened during anxiety?
The thoughts that lead up to it.
What if we don't know? Like, what if that's not something we generally like figure out or
Yeah,
like know
that's
what's
the tricky
causing it?
part, is kind of trying to stop yourself and say, oh, what was I thinking about? So you can kind of write about what's going on, maybe. If you can't think about like what exact thought went through your head, just be like, oh, this was happening, and write that down. But usually it's like, and then we can kind of trace through what was happening and what was making you anxious. And it's gonna help us identify some of those and learn about our own patterns so that we can dig into it a little bit more. We're gonna bring those back next week. I'm not gonna make you guys read them. We are gonna kind of look through them a little bit. If you feel comfortable sharing, you can. Do you guys have any questions?
I'm not gonna be able to remember what those 2 things you want us to do are. Can we write them down?
I have them actually written down on little note cards, and I'm gonna give them to you before you head out. Yeah. All right. Any concerns, thoughts, suggestions? All right. Well, it was really great to see you guys, and I will see you guys around the school, but also next Wednesday during 4th period. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks.